We're going to quickly go here through Unit 4 notes, or the big idea is triangle congruence. Congruence is just one of the hugest ideas in geometry, but we tend to see it show up mostly in triangles because we can summarize a lot of shortcuts and a lot of patterns very quickly and easily. So when two geometric figures are congruent, it means that they are the same size and the same shape. Okay, so size is kind of like the area that's enclosed by them, and shape means that the shape of the angles that define the direction of those edges is going to be the same. What we're looking at now is trying to see this picture here and then write out just an abbreviated label for what we see in that picture. So when I see this picture, I see a triangle, and I only see one marking, and that one marking is in the corner of an angle. So I'm just going to mark a single A. There we go. All right, now let's look at this next one. This next one has 3 markings, and all of these 3 markings are on the sides. So if I were to think of those as a label, I could say side, side, side. So that would be 3 S's. Okay, let's go to the next line. I see an angle and a second angle, and in between those 2 angles on that same side that they both touch, we call this on the inclusive piece, is a side. So it has an angle, then a side, then an angle. So we're looking for a pattern that says ASA, or angle, side, angle. Okay, and over here I just have 2 angles, so that's going to be angle, angle. On the next one I have 3 angles, so that'll be angle, angle, angle. And the next one I have just one side, so I'll click on one side. And now I have another kind of back and forth pattern. Before I had an angle, then a side, then an angle. Now I have 2 sides, and between them on the included piece, it's inclusive to both of them, they're both touching it, is an angle. So I'm going to look for 2 sides with an angle in between. So that's side, angle, side. Okay, now this next one, I have 2 sides again and an angle, but notice that the angle comes after the 2 sides. Or another way of thinking of it is it's not included between them. This angle here is separate from that other side. It's not even touching it. And for that pattern, we say that's side, side, angle, where the angle is not in the middle, but on the outside of those 2 sides. For this next one, we have side and side. And then for the last one, we have an angle, and then a side. So this pattern has an A, and then the S is not between them, but on after them. So that's angle, angle, side. Okay, so there's our patterns, just as a way for us to kind of help remember what we're seeing here. And which postulates guarantee 2 congruent triangles? Well, some of them do and some of them don't. The classic easy one is going to be side, side, side. That's an easy one to remember. Then your zigzag ones is the way I try to think of it. So side, and angle, side, angle. All 3 of those work. And let's see what else we have. There is the angle, angle, side, or side, angle, angle, where it's 2 angles and a side. That one will work. So I'm going to mark side, angle, angle, or we could have written angle, angle, side. That's really the same thing, just one of them's written forwards, one of them's written backwards. And then the last one, that will work for us is this thing that says HL, which we haven't even looked at, but we will look at later in our notes. HL stands for the words hypotenuse and leg. Okay, now let's get a little deeper into each of these. What we're going to do is just more clearly define them. I'll go through this part pretty quickly, but you can always go back and just slow it down or fill it in. So when we say side, 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 we mean that it is, oops, that was supposed to be, those are supposed to be the word side, not 1, 2, 3. Let's see if I can find the word sides in here. Corresponding, it's this one. So I'm going to copy that, and I'll have that fixed for your notes. All right, so that one is like that. So it's side, side, side is the pattern that we're looking at. And if there are 3 sides of one triangle are congruent to corresponding sides of another triangle, in other words, they match up with 3 sides of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. And so what we're looking for here, these triangles, this picture here is actually color coordinated. I see the 4 and 4 are red, 7 and 7 are green, 6 and 6 are blue. So I want to try and match up the 2 triangles. The second one here says FDE, so FDE. I notice that I go across the red, then across the blue. So I got to go the same pattern here, BAC, across the red and then across the blue. Okay, so now let's copy this, and we're going to paste it for each of these, but we're going to change it from saying sides to angles where it's appropriate. So side, angle side is this pattern, and if 2 sides and the included angle are congruent to 2 sides and the corresponding angle of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. And in this case, we see ABC. So A goes down the side that has a single marking to B, and then it goes across the blank side. So I want to go across the single marking and then the blank side. So that's EFD. EFD is what I'm looking for. Angle side angle is our next one. And it says that this one doesn't have the fill-ins, but if 2 sides, 2 angles, and the included side of one triangle are congruent to 2 angles and the included side of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. Okay, so now let's talk about which pieces match up. Angle A is going to match up with angle D. And angle C is going to match with angle F because they both have the double markings there. And AC is going to match with FD or DF. Those could be written either way. So if A matches with D and C matches with F, I can use that in my little correspondence here, the matching letters. The first thing should be F to match with the C, and the last thing should be D. So it should be FED. There we go. All right, angle side is our next one. If two sides, looks like something got deleted here. if two angles and a corresponding side of one triangle are congruent to the corresponding angles and corresponding side of another triangle. In other words, all the angles and all the sides should match. You shouldn't have them like flip-flopped in their order. And we'll see a little bit closer what that means over here. Then the triangles are congruent. What we mean by this is that if I were to look at the orders of these, I have a single mark, a double mark, and then the side. So I have a single angle, a double angle, and then the side. And again, I have a single angle, a double angle, and then the side. Now let's say that those two angles were swapped on that second picture. It went double, single, then side. I would not have a match in that case. So you have to have the two angles, if you were to lay them on top of each other, match up with the pieces. I see that A goes with F and C goes with E. So I'm going to have it start with F and end with E. It should be F, D, E. There we go. Hypotenuse leg. So this one is going to have leg for the second word and hypotenuse for the first word. If the hypotenuse and a leg of a right triangle that only works for right triangles are congruent to the hypotenuse and a leg of another right triangle, then the triangles are congruent. It's kind of a long phrase, but what's the idea here? It has to be a right triangle, and you have to have matching pieces. In other words, AC is the same as FD, or we could say DF, and BC is the same as EF. ABC is a right triangle, and DEF is a right triangle. All that is required. And what does that let us do? Well, this one is not written out, so why don't we go ahead and write it out? We'll say ABC. ABC means I go down the black line, then over the blue line, so that's going to be DEF. There we go. Of all the triangle congruence, which three-letter acronym is not included? It's the side-side angle. That's the one that's missing. Now here's the weird thing about it, is that right triangles are actually a side-side angle. I have two sides and then an angle that's not in between them. But this only works for right triangles. So that's why we don't say side-side angle for any other kind of triangles. It's only going to work for right triangles. Okay, now for this second half of notes, there's a lot going on here, but all that we're looking for is, do we see one of the patterns? There's a lot of pattern recognition here. I notice that I have side, 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 side. And yes, they are congruent because of side, side, side. That's one of the patterns I can use. Over on the next one, I have a hypotenuse and a leg and a right angle. So that's a yes because of hypotenuse leg. Oh, it's missing there. So I'm going to add HL. We're going to add a new option. We're going to call it HL. So that one is yes because of hypotenuse leg. For this next pattern, I notice that I have an angle, another angle, and a side in between. And on the other one, I also have that same pattern. So I'm going to say yes because of angle, side, angle. Okay, on this next one, I'm going to go in and edit the drawing a little bit because something is working for us, but we don't know it. So this line in the middle, because it's touching both triangles, it's kind of like taking a piece of paper and overlapping it with itself. It's going to be equal. So I can mark on here, a double mark there, and let's make it nice and readable, nice and thick. So that double mark counts for both of those triangles as well. This tells me that I have a right triangle, and the hypotenuse, which is across from the right angle, is congruent, as is one of the other sides. So I have a side-side angle, but with the angle being a right triangle. So it's yes because of hypotenuse leg. Now let's go in and mark some things on this picture. I see that I have two sides and a pair of vertical angles. So I'm going to just use a circle here in the middle to kind of say, hey, look at these vertical angles. Those are also congruent. I'll make that circle transparent. So all those angles, we got vertical angles going both ways, but that helps us with side, angle, side. Two sides with an angle in the middle. So that's going to be a yes because of side, angle, side. Are we missing side, angle, side? We are. That's so weird. So let's add it in here. Side, angle, side. And this is going to be side, angle, side. The next one. Okay, again, I have to go into the picture and edit because there's stuff that's not marked. Whenever you have an overlapping side, that is also something that is congruent. We'll make that nice and thick so we can read it. So now I have 1, 2, 3 sides marked. So it's a yes because of side, side, side. And another one. Now I have the vertical angles. Anytime we have vertical angles or overlapping sides, we can mark those for free. Those don't have to be marked for us because those are things that we can interpret. All right, so now I have those angles in the middle. So what am I going to have? I have a side, and then an angle. So it's going to be no because it's side, side, angle, and it's not a right triangle. Okay. Let's go and edit this one and add in our vertical angles into the middle. So I click on my circle, and we'll make it transparent. Make it a little bit thicker, easier to read. So that says I got vertical angles in the middle. And my picture disappeared there for a second. Let's try reloading. Oh, now it came back. Okay, so there's my picture, and I have a side and an angle, but that's it. So it's a no. And I'm going to say not enough information. All I have is one side and one angle. I don't know anything else. All right, now let's look at this one. Again, I have the vertical angle intersection there in the middle. Whenever you have vertical angles, that means those two angles kind of opposite each other are going to be equal. So I'm marking just a circle on there, trying to show like, hey, those are a couple of angles that I know are equal. What does that do for me now? Well, I have two angles on each one, and I have a side that's in between the two angles in both of the patterns. So that gives me a yes because angle, side, angle. There we go, I mismarked it. This one is interesting because on one of these, I'm going to write this out just so we can see it very clearly. On this left one, it's an angle, or side, angle, side. I'll make that bigger so it's readable when we come out of the drawing. But on the other one, if I copy and paste that, it's not side, angle, side. Because notice that I have two sides, but the angle's not in the middle. It's outside of them. So I don't have matching patterns. It's not just is it a good pattern, is it a match between both triangles? So this one is no. And we can say not enough information. If there was more information, we might be able to say something, but so far we can't. All right, another one where we have a piece that we can mark. This overlapping side here in the middle is congruent, so I'll give it like a double mark there. And we'll make those bigger, easier to read when I come out of the picture. And because those are marked, I have two angles and then a side. And that is one of our matching patterns. Angle, angle, side. So that's a yes. Angle, angle, side. Okay, let's look again. We have another kind of mismatch pattern. I have a side, angle, side, and the other one is side, side, angle. So this one, like what we saw before, is going to be no, but not enough information. Okay, so for these last few here, what you're looking at is it's going to give you a prompt, and it's implying that the prompt is incomplete. So we have to do a couple of things. We have to list which sides should be marked that are not yet marked, and then we also have to write down what those pieces are. So if I look at this picture and it says side, angle, side, so I have one side and then an angle, that means that this other side that will then kind of wrap around it so the angle's in the middle is the mark that's missing. Similarly, on the other triangle, it would be this mark there. Now I'm going to click on both of these, make them nice and thick, easy to read, so when I zoom out, we can read them. I'll close this. Now that's only half the problem. The second half, I'm going to press to the right, press enter so I can go under the picture, is I need to say which two pieces those are. So I would say UV is going to be equal to LM. That was the missing piece. Okay, angle, angle, side. Well, let's see what's going on in this picture. I see a couple things. One thing I notice is that there's an overlapping side that's not marked. So I can mark it, and I will add it to my picture. Now I have a marking for my side. Check. I have another angle. I have A is equal to B. Okay? But I need a third angle. So that third angle I'll mark with a circle like I've done before. And that angle for this pattern needs to be not wrapped around the side, but away from it. So it'll be this angle here. Make that transparent, make it thicker. And I'll copy and paste that and then move it also over here. Meaning that angle BCA, or angle C, however you want to say it, is congruent to angle X. So I'm going to press to the right, press enter so I have some space underneath this, and I'll say angle C is equal to angle X. Now those aren't the actual symbols for angle. You would have to go to a website and copy and paste the symbol for the angle, or go up here further, and you could find it next to these letters, and I could copy and paste it. But if you just put a less than sign, it's close enough, and it probably tells you what you're looking for. I'll copy and paste it just to make it nice and clean. Okay, again, we have an overlapping side that's not marked, so I'm going to go ahead and mark it. And I'll copy and paste that. So I have one side, another side, but there's a third side that's also not marked. So this one that's in the middle is for free. Like that one's guaranteed already marking, but what's missing is the third side. The third side, and maybe I'll use different coloring for this, but the third side here, this SW and the YX, that's not given. That's not necessarily known, but that's the missing information. So the triple mark is the one that's missing. So I'll go to the right, press enter so I can go underneath, and we would say that SW is equal to YX is our missing piece, those triple marks. Okay. Now we have the next one here. It says that it's a pattern of angle, side, angle, and we need to say what's missing. Well, the side in the middle is missing. I have two angles in each of these cases, but I need a side in both of those. So there's one side. I'll copy and paste it. Click on my arrow, then copy and paste. Use my arrow keys to move it over here. And it's not exactly marked, but that's close enough. Notice that I put it between the two angles because it's a side in between the two angles. It's included in between. I'll press to the right with my arrow key and then enter to make a line below. And now I need to say that HG equals DC. This should be an equal sign. Okay, let's see if we can kind of speed round some of these. We have side angle side. Side angle side means that the angle is in between. So I'm going to mark the angle in between there. And I'll make it transparent and I'll make it thick. Maybe not that thick. There we go. I'll copy and paste that and put it over here, and it needs to be the angle in between the two sides. So that means it's going to be this angle K. So now we have angle U should be equal to angle K. I'm going to copy and paste this angle equals angle from up here. I'll press enter. But this time it's angle U is equal to angle K. All right, now angle, angle side. Angle, angle side. This is interesting because it could go either way. There's actually two acceptable answers because I could go CD and then the side, or I could go CE and then the side. And over here I have S. If I were to follow the same patterns, I would go ST then the side, or SU then the side. So let's just choose one. Let's choose the D. So we'll have that angle there, make it transparent, make it a little bit thicker, and I'll copy and paste that. And I need to see which one that matches over here. Now I'm going to say it matches the T. It's not exactly clear, but I can kind of tell that CE and US are the shorter side. So I'm going to keep those two short sides together. All right, so that gives me angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side. Perfect. And now I press to the right, press enter, and I again can say, I'll copy and paste these angles, and its angle D is going to match up with angle T. All right, now we have angle, side, angle. And the middle angle here, the vertex angles, those are already known. I do not have to add those in. Those are not missing. They're just not marked. They're not, it's more like it's implied because vertical angles are already congruent. Now I need to find matching other angles. And I'll color these slightly different. Let's color them blue. And these are the angles that we should be finding. Notice where I'm choosing them. The blue angles that match each other make it so that the side is in between the two angles. And that is what we want in our pattern, a side in the middle. I'll press to the right, click enter. And so the missing piece that we needed was another matching pair of angles. I'll copy and paste them. And this was angle R equals angle K. All right, we have two more. We're almost there. We have side and side, but we have an angle in between. And I'll make that transparent and make it a little bit thicker. And that angle is already implied. It's already marked for us. Now I don't want to choose the angle where it makes the side in the middle. The side is not going to be in the middle. So that means for my other markings, I'm going to choose J, and we'll change the color again, and T. There we go. So those are our two markings for that piece. And our last one, hypotenuse leg. This one is interesting because we get the free marking in the middle because those are an overlapping side. Overlapping pieces are always equal no matter what. And then that's the leg. I still need the hypotenuse in each one. So I need to mark the hypotenuse as matching marks. So I have a double mark there and a double mark there. So UT and SD is my final matching pair. UT equals SD. And that's it. It's a lot of identifying, a lot of work, but it's all here for you to kind of follow through.